Hi everyone, it's Abby from the Center for Career Development, here today to talk with you about virtual interviews. This includes phone interviews, live virtual interviews, and pre-recorded interviews. If you haven't heard of pre-recorded interviews before, don't worry, we'll explain them in detail later. Please note that throughout this module, there will be times when you need to pause to either watch a video or to do an activity. Please make sure that you go back into eCampus to watch videos and make sure that you stop to do activities so that you can get the most out of this module, and be aware that you might be asked questions in the quiz that refer back to the video content. Let's start with phone interviews. Phone interviews are usually one of the first steps in the interview process. They help companies to identify applicable candidates for a role. Phone interviews can make or break your chance of obtaining a second round interview, so make sure you take it seriously. Let's go over some tips for acing a phone interview. Prepare as you would for an in-person interview. Familiarize yourself with the job and company you're interviewing with. Practice answering basic interview questions. Compile a list of questions to ask your interviewer. Let's go over some of the most common phone screen questions. An employer might ask you something along the lines of, "Tell me about yourself." They might ask, "Are you open to relocation?" They might ask you some behavioral-based questions. These are questions that start with, "Give me an example of a time," "Share an example of a time," or "Describe a time when you had to." Employers might also ask, "How much do you know about our company?" And lastly, what major challenges did you face in your most recent job? How did you handle them? Let's talk about how to be personable on the phone. Your interviewer can't see you, and so it's important to think about these tips as you're preparing for a phone interview. Smile. Even though you are speaking over the phone, smiling promotes a positive tone in your voice. Be conversational. Maintain friendly yet professional tone rather than sounding rehearsed or robotic. Use clear enunciation. Speak clearly, enunciate simple words and phrases, and do not use complex vocabulary. Set a professional voicemail. In the event you can't answer the phone, leave a good impression by having a friendly and professional voicemail. Make sure that your voicemail also states your name so that employers know they've reached the right person. Also make sure that your voicemail inbox isn't full, or the employer won't be able to leave you a message for you to contact them. Some other phone interview tips to follow. Make sure you conduct the interview in a quiet and professional setting. Have your resume ready to draw from. Have a Padfolio or notebook nearby and be prepared to take notes. Verify that you have good cell phone reception prior to the call. At this time, please pause this video and go back into eCampus to watch video number 1. After you have watched video number 1, please do activity number 1. After I read this slide, please feel free to pause your video and take time to practice your response to the following common interview question. Tell me about yourself and what experiences or characteristics will make you an asset to this organization. If possible, record your response and listen back to assess the tone and volume of your voice, rate of speech, and the amount of time it took you to answer. As you prepare for phone interviews, ask a friend or a staff member in the Center for Career Development to do a practice phone interview. Go ahead and pause your video now to do activity number 1. Now let's talk about live virtual interviews. These are also referred to as Skype interviews, but now they can be conducted through various platforms such as Google Meetings, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, etc. A live virtual interview is an interview conducted via computer between you and your interviewer. These are usually the next step after advancing from the phone interview process. A live virtual interview could be the last interview in your stage of interviews, or it could be the interview prior to when you go to the office in person. How to prepare for a live virtual interview. Make sure your technology is working. Check internet connectivity as well as camera and microphone functionality. Sit down and prepare. Ask yourself, why are you interested in the job? What are you looking for in the position? What do you know about the company? Practice, but don't memorize. Memorizing creates robotic answers, while practice draws clear, well-organized thoughts together into well-blended answers. Again, make sure you take the interview in a quiet and well-lit area. Acing the live virtual interview. Treat it as you would treat a regular in-person interview. Be cognizant of body language. Make sure you sit up straight, smile, and keep your camera at eye level. Dress for the role. Dress as you would for an in-person interview. This is usually business professional unless noted otherwise by the company or the specific industry that you're interested in. Professional dress will show you are serious about the position. Be yourself. This can be challenging during virtual interviews, so the more that you practice and get comfortable with virtual interviews, the easier it will be for your personality to show through. At this time, please pause this video and go back into eCampus to watch video number 2. Let's talk about pre-recorded interviews. These are interviews where the candidate answers preset questions to be reviewed by an employer later. Answers to questions are usually under a time constraint. You usually have 30 seconds of candidate think time, and then 1 to 3 minutes to respond to the question. Different companies will offer retakes. Some companies might not offer any, while others offer 1 or 2 retakes. Make sure that you do your research prior to beginning the interview so you know if you have a chance to refilm your answer more than once. Some tips to prepare for pre-recorded interviews. Prepare as you would for an in-person, phone, or live virtual interview. Make sure that you dress business professional. Be yourself. Just like live virtual interviews, pre-recorded interviews can feel awkward, so try to be yourself and express emotion. Again, the more that you practice pre-recorded interviews and get comfortable with the platform and talking to your camera, the easier it will be to be confident and calm and for your personality to show through. More tips to follow. Research. Research the company, specific job, and business/functional areas. Practice. Practice frequently asked interview questions while looking at your screen or camera. Check. Check internet connection, camera, and phone functionality. Choose. Choose a nice, comfortable environment with soft backlighting. Let's go over some questions you can expect. Again, you'll likely be asked, tell me about yourself. You might be asked, why do you want to work for the company? You might be asked some behavioral-based questions. Tell me about a time when you might be asked questions regarding your strengths and your weaknesses. And yes, you could even be asked, what food would you be? Employers aren't asking this to see what food you'd actually be. They want to see how fast you can think on your feet, and they're looking for the reasoning you use in your answer. We've talked about behavioral-based questions once or twice in this module. Let's go over how to answer behavioral-based questions. Behavioral-based questions are questions that ask you to reflect on a past time that you demonstrated something. These questions usually start with, tell me about a time, describe a time when you had to, or share an example of a time. You want to use the STAR technique to answer behavioral-based interview questions. Every letter within the word STAR stands for something different. S stands for situation. You want to set the scene and explain the situation in detail for your interviewer. T is for task. Describe the purpose or what you were supposed to be doing. A is for action. Explain what you did or the specific steps that you took. R is for result. Make sure that you share the outcome. You circle back to talk about the end result and things that you learned. The following link can be used to find general and behavioral-based interview questions, as well as a more detailed description of the STAR method. Activity number 3. Please stop the video after I'm done reading this slide and take a moment to practice your response to the following 2 behavioral-based interview questions. Tell me about a time when you identified a way to improve a process or situation. Describe the scenario, what steps you took, and the outcome. Tell me about a time you made a mistake in a work or academic setting. What did you learn? If possible, record your response, and when you play back your answer, assess your interview setting, body language, and if you covered all components of the STAR method. As you prepare for live, virtual, or pre-recorded interviews, ask a friend or a staff member in the Center for Career Development to do a practice interview. Go ahead and pause your video now to do activity number 2. JobMa Interview Practice. JobMa is an online interviewing platform. The Center for Career Development has its own account in JobMa so that you can practice pre-recorded interviews and receive feedback within 48 hours. You can use this link. We'll post it in eCampus so that you can do a pre-recorded interview through JobMa at any time. At this time, please pause this video and go back into eCampus to watch video number 3. Let's talk about preventing technical difficulties. Make sure you don't wait until the last minute to take the interview in case issues occur. If you experience technological difficulties, email or contact your recruiter immediately and explain your situation. This applies to live virtual interviews as well. With pre-recorded interviews, your employer will likely give you a time frame to complete the interview in. Make sure you don't wait until the last day in case you can't get a hold of the recruiter to explain that you're having difficulties. In live virtual interviews, make sure that you test the platform and your microphone and camera so that you can eliminate any technical difficulties ahead of time. If you still have some, again, make sure you reach out to the recruiter and let them know what's going on. Let's do a review of interview tips that apply to all types of interviews we've talked about today. 1. Always dress business professionally for an interview unless the company or specific industry indicates otherwise. 2. Research the company and industry before interviewing. 3. Prepare for common interview questions. 4. Use the STAR technique when answering questions, specifically behavioral-based questions. 5. Answer confidently. Try to limit the amount of times you say and like. After the interview, you want to immediately follow up with each interviewer. Within 24 hours, send a thank you email thanking your interviewer or interviewers for their time. Share an anecdote from your interview, what you like about the job, the company, culture, etc. Make sure you keep the email concise and to the point. Here's a sample thank you email. Within the body of the email, you might write something like, "Thank you for taking the time to interview me today for the financial analyst positions at CFI Education, Inc. I really enjoyed discussing the opportunity with you and think it would be a great fit for both of us. One of the main things that stood out to me was the great culture at CFI. I can really see myself fitting in with the team and thriving in that kind of work environment. Additionally, the company's mission of helping anyone become a world-class financial analyst really resonates with me, and I'd be excited to help support that mission. Once again, thanks for your time and consideration. If there is any additional information I can provide you with to help in your decision, please let me know. Best regards," and then your name. Now that you've completed the virtual interviews module, make sure that you go back into eCampus and complete the virtual interview module quiz to fully complete this module and receive your Career Readiness Program points.